Last train out tonight. All aboard if you're coming aboard.
For more than a century, St. Louis Union Station has held center stage. A marriage of opulence and efficiency, she featured the world's most magnificent architecture. In 1904, St. Louis and Union Station swung wide their gates and welcomed the world to experience the World's Fair. That same year, Union Station and St. Louis hosted another international event, welcoming athletes from around the globe to compete in the Summer Olympic Games. Today, Union Station stands proud and ready to welcome a brand new generation of visitors. St. Louis Union Station, the city's crown jewel, shines on.
When you first walk into the Grand Hall, it's like being transported back in time. You're immediately struck by the size and beauty of this historic architecture. Our goal was to create an attraction that didn't disturb or compete with this architecture, but brought the space to life in an engaging manner.
We were working with JRA on several projects, and I got a call from Sean, very excited about this new project. He explained it to me. We went online, I looked at the space, and together we just thought, we have to do a projection mapping show here.
John came up and looked at the hall, said he could put on a show that was the 3D mapping.
We're working with Technomedia. First of all, we knew we were working with the best in the country. These are folks that have won awards previously, and we knew about their work with the Michael Jackson show in Las Vegas. So we knew they were going to deliver an outstanding product.
They basically said they wanted to create an immersive wraparound projection system for this crazy vault ceiling that I had to see to believe.
I went out to Las Vegas to see the Cirque du Soleil show and Michael Jackson tribute. I was blown away with that, and so when I came back, I said, John, let's take a whirl at it.
There was a lot of moving parts to this system that made it difficult to really work with. We had to first come in with a laser scanning team to take a virtual survey of the space so that we could build accurate content that would then line up with the system when it gets reprojected onto it. It's an over 6 million point cloud that we took from our survey. We had to simplify that down, find out where we needed more detail, and bring that out.
Once we have the laser scan of the space, there are photographs which are mapped to the geometry of the scan, and the end result is a model that has both the geometry as well as the color and detail of the actual space.
What was also tricky about it was that it's a historically preserved space, and they don't really want to see any of the new technology that we would be putting in. Really creating this environment without being able to see any of the technology.
The biggest challenge was working with the historic preservation, so we couldn't screw into the brick, we couldn't have any exposed conduit, and hiding all the bits and pieces for the show was challenging.
We had to find clever ways to hide the projectors so that you can't really see it from down below, and you're just wondering where all of this magic is coming from.
We have to do an acoustical analysis of the facility to understand how sound behaves in that space. We were not able to introduce any sort of acoustical treatment, absorption, mitigation, or any of the other things that you can typically do in a concert hall or a theater. We developed positions that we could place the speakers where they would provide excellent coverage for the audience but remain unobtrusive from an aesthetic standpoint.
JRA was working with Technomedia on a variety of projects when the Grand Hall Experience project started. I knew that they had just completed a really dynamic projection mapping show down in Puerto Rico, so I gave John a call to see if he was interested in working with us on the project.
We worked from day one with Technomedia, coming up with ideas that we thought would tie in with St. Louis and that people visiting this train station would really get excited about.
We wanted to find a variety of content so that the experience for the guests would be ever-changing and ever-evolving. We probably came up with 50 concepts at the beginning and determined what was the best of the best and what was going to be the greatest experience for the guests.
To tell the stories in the way that we wanted to, we had a variety of approaches to the styles we used. One we called cinematic, which we used on a lot of the historical pieces, dimensional, which we used on a lot of the really over-the-top 3D illusions, and several others. But basically what we did was we had artists who brought these different ideas and disciplines to the table. So we were able to accomplish what we wanted to in a very cohesive manner.
And we were fortunate to get John Goodman, John Hamm, Joe Buck, Dan Deerdorf, and Bob Costas all to do narrations complimentary because they love this iconic place and they're all very fond of St. Louis.
When you're creating as much media as we wanted to create, we really needed to pull the best of our team. All of that team had to be singing from the same sheet of music.
We had a variety of artists working on the project, and they all brought something different to the table, which we really liked. Some were actual sketch artists, some were 3D modelers. Basically, we needed that combination to create the expansive experience we wanted that traveled not only through these stories, but also through the art and how the art was presented on the ceiling.
The Grand Hall has such a strong existing character. Finding content that worked was an evolving process. The full-size plate that we were working with was 8K. It means that things that will typically work and you can count on in a smaller frame just aren't an option.
We did a lot of testing in the space to really figure out how this was going to come together and to help us through the design process. We bring that information back to our design team and show them the kinds of things they needed to do that were not the typical thing you would do. When you're looking at the content on a screen, it looks very abstract, but in the space, it really, really worked well.
I was inspired to try to bring the soundtrack up to par with what they had done, architecturally speaking. We would mix music first, and then we would add sound effects, sound design, and dialogue, placing them individually into each of the different speakers. And it's just tantamount that we get to do it in the space so that we can place things exactly where they need to go.
We also wanted to honor the space, and we wanted to make sure what we created wasn't just a layer on top of that, but really blended in very well with the architecture.
Creatively, the biggest challenge was to come up with something that was worthy of the space itself and of the huge visuals. The visuals were so big, it was difficult to come up with something that wasn't just loud, but that was powerful.
Working with LHM was a great pleasure. They were an amazing client to work with. Once we had all the plans down in the beginning, they gave us free rein to create what we needed to create, and they were so supportive through the process.
Unbelievable.
I felt like a little kid. I had a ball.
It was magnificent.
It's absolutely fabulous.
You'll never see anything like this anywhere.
You need to come see it.
The Grand Hall is such a beautiful space, and this is an art installation. So early on, we decided at one point we're going to open this up to artists and young students to be able to download our template, build their own shows, send them to us for curation, and if they were selected, they would end up as a part of the media library up on the ceiling.
LHM was great to work with. While the project was part of a greater business development strategy, from the very beginning you could see they had a real passion for their community and for preserving its history.
As we were going along the course with Technomedia, and I'd tell people that we were doing a 3D mapping show, they would look at me like I was crazy. They had no idea, and they would just kind of blow it off. And when I finally would get them here, they were just blown away. And this is really our closing room. So in terms of business, this is where we close business.
We're more than happy with the outcome of the project. It exceeded our expectations. We were concerned because of the vaulted ceiling that the sound wouldn't be right, and the sound is exquisite. Everybody comes in, it's a wow factor. The light show is phenomenal, and we're more than happy.